Today we'll be walking through an overview of the Retail Trade Fund Management Industry Accelerator. Nearly every aspect of completing daily business is part of a process. It's how companies get work done. And so how effective and efficient those processes are is hugely important for shaping the performance of the organization. This is why smart companies are good at business process management. It's why those of us within IBM are excited to introduce smarter process industry accelerators. Industry accelerators provide the best of worlds, flexibility and time to value. Our pre-built industry accelerators provide time to value by giving you a jump start to implement faster, while taking advantage of industry-specific best practices. IBM Business Process Manager and IBM Operational Decision Manager provide greater flexibility than vertical out-of-the-box solutions and are easy to tailor to meet your specific needs, which gives you the ability to easily adapt to change. In addition, IBM Smarter Process Industry Accelerators are available on IBM BPM on Cloud, offering low startup costs and fast return on investment. Our industry accelerators are available with mobile, so you can take your business to the next level and stay one step ahead of your competition. So what is a Smarter Process Industry Accelerator? It's a code asset containing processes, rules, and data objects that target a specific industry use case. Accelerators demonstrate the capability and value of IBM products to our customers with the goal of accelerating time to production. Accelerators are not a complete end-to-end process, but they're more than a demo. As a services asset, they are maintained and delivered to our customer set by the IBM Smarter Process Center of Competency, or COC. You can extend our accelerators with IBM Mobile First and many other IBM products. The services aspect of our accelerators means that you get access to a vast array of deeply knowledgeable industry experts that will help you implement and customize your IBM Smarter Process Industry Accelerator. Our accelerators are powered by IBM BlueWorks Live, IBM Business Process Manager, IBM Operational Decision Manager, in some cases integrated with IBM Mobile First. We have a number of industry accelerators available in different industries, with more being added on a frequent basis. We will now walk through a demo of the Retail Vendor Trade Fund Management Industry Accelerator. This accelerator provides a retailer with the capabilities to seamlessly interact with their vendors in order to manage the lifecycle of trade agreements and to automate reconciliation processes. We will look at this accelerator through the eyes of the retailer's category manager, Gopal, and from a vendor who will negotiate an annual agreement with the retailer. We will start with the category manager named Gopal. The category manager is the guy who will be negotiating with the vendors for renewal of agreements and deals and so on. Gopal will log onto Process Portal, and the first thing he'll do is take a look at what schedules are currently in place. We'll start the Configure Schedule process from the launch menu. And let's take a look at the existing fiscal year. We are provided with a 454 merchandising calendar based on the National Retailers Federation, which allows them to customize the periods and designate the reconciliation timeframes for each period. We see the number of days after the end of each period or quarter when we want the reconciliation scheduling to come in. So what that will do is take into account all the allowances and deals that are in an active agreement and determine whether we need to start calculating rebates. Now Gopal can start to configure the 2014 fiscal year for his company. We'll click the Create New Scheduler button. He can set the number of days after the period end for the reconciliation to start, the frequency of the reconciliation scheduling, and configure and make adjustments to the calendar based on the specific requirements of his organization. In this particular instance, we see that he's doing a period end reconciliation. You can see that the calendars for each period are highly configurable based on the retailer's requirements. Once this has been put in place, he can submit the schedule proposal. What this will do is set up the scheduling that will go on behind the scenes for the reconciliation of the allowances. Once the schedule has been put in place, he then needs to go and configure the various allowances that he will potentially negotiate with the vendors. We'll kick off the Configure Allowance Type process. What we see here is a variety of allowances that are based on templates, which are based on standard things that you would see in the industry. Some of our allowances are set as annual allowances, and some are set as in-season. As we go through this, I'll explain how we can configure the various rebates of allowances. Once these allowances are submitted, Gopal is now in a position to start negotiating new agreements with the vendors. Before he does that, he'll go to his portal once again and view the past performance for each of the vendors to see what allowances were in place during the previous year. Based on what he sees, he may choose to send an invitation to a particular vendor that will allow them to renew their allowances. He selects a year and then sees a list of all the vendors that have an active agreement for that fiscal year. He selects a vendor and can see a list of all the allowances for that fiscal year and the overall total. He can also see if he has any open invitations for previous fiscal years for that particular vendor. He decides that this looks like a good vendor and sends an invitation to start negotiating with that vendor. This invitation will kick off a process to create a new agreement, and the first task to be completed will be available in the vendor's process portal. We'll log in as the vendor now. And we should see a task in the vendor's work queue to add an annual agreement. We'll click on it to create a new proposal for an annual agreement. We should see known information about the vendor, and we can select the type of deduction from the drop-down list and what the deduction timeframe is. Let's specify that there will be a deduction from invoice method of payment on a quarterly basis. Next, the vendor needs to select which allowances will be included in the proposal he's making. In this case, the vendor is going to offer an advertising allowance that's based on receipts and will be accrued as a % of those receipts. Also, he'll offer a planogram allowance that's based on SKUs and we can indicate what kind of proof of performance is required to go with that. In the case of the planogram, you can expect to see a copy of the planogram to be sent with the vendor as proof. Once the vendor has included all the allowances they want to offer, they check to make sure everything looks as it should be, and submits the proposal to be sent back to the retailer. The submission of this agreement will start a task that is assigned to the category manager. The vendor can wait to hear back from the retailer or submit another proposal. The category manager, Gopal, will log in again. If any of his vendors have submitted any proposals since he's logged on, he'll see a task in his queue for each pending agreement. The current pending agreement is an annual agreement that the vendor just submitted. Gopal decides that the proposal looks okay, but is going to request an additional allowance. Gopal is going to reject the proposal for now, and the vendor will receive a new task to review the rejected agreement. So we'll log in as the vendor again to take a look at Gopal's response and to consider the additional terms he can put into the proposal to make it acceptable to the retailer. In this case, he's going to add in a display allowance. The vendor will submit this new proposal and have it sent back to the retailer for review. We'll log in as Gopal again to access the new proposal. Gopal sees that the original proposal that was rejected has been modified and resubmitted. He sees a review history with his former request and decides to approve the current proposal. We'll now take a quick look at the process that the vendor takes to create a new in-season agreement and negotiate it with the retailer. Let's take a look at the agreements from our vendor again. I'm logged in as our category manager Gopal. I'll search for all vendors and then select the vendor we've been working with. We see that there are two types of agreements, annual and in-season, and the annual is what we've been working with so far. Now let's take a look at the in-season agreement. In this example, the vendor has a new line of coffee beans and he'd like to promote those to the retailer. The main difference here is that the in-season agreements are based on deals that are based on SKUs or stock keeping units. Here, the vendor is running a promotion on his new line of coffee beans. He's offering volume rebates for different SKUs, but is also offering allowance types such as signing and banners. He wants prominence of his product in the store, and he's offering rebates for that benefit. The process to create an in-season agreement is the same as what we did for annual agreements. The vendor will start a new process in his portal to create the agreement. He adds in the deals and the allowances he's going to offer. Then he reviews the agreement and submits it. As before, the pending agreement will appear in the work queue for category managers. The category manager can approve or reject the agreement, and the vendor will have the opportunity to add additional terms that will make the proposal more useful for our retailer. We hope this short overview has given you more insights about our smarter process industry accelerators and how these assets help you implement faster and provide time to value for our clients. Thanks so much for your time.